but I do think that they could have won. There was a couple questionable choices that they made in the game, like the delay of game one, where you were on the Eagles side of the field, and 4th and 1, just run it to get a first down, and then keep going. You could have potentially added a touchdown, made it a closer game, sent it to overtime, something like that. It was just blown plays throughout the game. I do think they could have won, but
they were 0 for 5 on 4th down.
Yeah, Brian, I hate because there's a lot of people that have done a lot of good things here in Detroit and have helped make this a competitive team. There were some bad performances last night. I mean, it just was what it was, and there's no real reason to sugarcoat. The question is, can they learn from this and can they get better? Like in the interior of the offensive line, do they need to keep shuffling people? Do they need to just hope it gets better when Mahogany comes back? Do they look at different combinations up front?
Is Miles Frazier going to get a chance?
Is Miles Frazier going to get in there? Are Penei Sewell, I hate what happened on the 4th down incompletion in the end zone to Amon-Ra, because Penei got burned off the edge. If he even slows up Jalen Phillips a little bit, I bet Jared Goff sees Brock Wright come wide open, but he didn't have time to work through his progressions and just threw it to where his best and most reliable receiver over history was, and it was incomplete, and he wasn't really open. Brock Wright was coming wide open. Jalen Phillips came off that edge, and he beat Penei Sewell, and Penei Sewell's one of the best in the game, and he beat him badly.
There are plays where Jared didn't have time, and that's unfortunate because that was one of them, because obviously Brock Wright was wide open, and I'm sure that Jared looked at that last night right after it happened and is like, you got to be kidding me. But he didn't have time on that play. I thought there were some plays where maybe he had more time than he thought he did, and he may have rushed through it. But we can ask him that tomorrow if that was the case. Mm-hmm. I think when you recognize early in the game that the defensive line that's coming after you is a problem, not only when they're rushing you as a passer, but they're a problem when you've got the pocket set up and you're going to throw it, because Jordan Davis is 6'6" and athletic as hell. Mm-hmm. And he knocked down 3 passes. And the first one, the first drive, I think it's tipped up in the air and it's intercepted. You're like, what just happened? That I think already is in your head a little bit. But he had 5 passes that were tipped at the line of scrimmage. And that led to other passes later in the game that just get knocked away by defensive backs too, and I think that plays a role in what you're thinking. And it just wasn't a good game, not for Jared Goff.
It's like, forgive my ignorance if even bringing this up, but I was talking to Doug this morning, and in basketball, completely different sport. I get it. If a guy keeps blocking your shot, you at some point you're like, all right, well, I'm going to pump fake this guy, get him in the air, whatever, then I'll go around, whatever. I don't know if there's an equivalent for that as a quarterback to do in a game, especially a game where he's not having time anyways to throw the ball. If you pump fake, you're probably going to get hit on your next throw. So, but that's how much of a problem it was last night. Frustrating for us watching, I'm sure for him throwing, is these batted balls in these hands. They were timing everything. They knew when you were going to throw it, and they're able to get their hands up and bat them down. It was completely frustrating. I figure, is there any other way around it?
Okay, let's get to Champ and Chump. Our Champ and Chump nominations. Gator, I will start my Champ of the weekend. We don't do this enough. I'm going to give credit to what is now clearly the class of the NFC. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. They won the NFC last year. They're 8-2 this year. And in back-to-back weeks, they've beaten Green Bay and Detroit. Philly, hats off. Champ of the week. Hate it, but Champ of the week.
I'm going to give the Champ of the week to J.B. Bickerstaff and the Detroit Pistons. He has his team ready to roll. They won both times when they didn't have Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Tobias Harris, and others that weren't playing in those games. 11-2 on the season right now. Best in the Eastern Conference by 2.5 games this early in the season. It's already a 2.5 game lead.
It's a great call. My Chump of the week, and again, as much as I hate giving Philly the champ, Dan Campbell, I think the net of his impact on this game was negative. I want him to be the Lions coach for a very long time. I think he's a great coach. It was a bad day at the office for Dan Campbell. He's my chump.
I agree with that, and we'll get into more of that as well. But my chump, I give it to the official who called Rock Ya-Sin for pass interference at the end of the game last night. It wasn't even close to being a penalty. Everybody knows it. It was an awful call, and not that it cost the Lions the game. What it cost the Lions was an opportunity to make something really interesting at the end. And
the defense can get rewarded for a stop. Yeah. They had another big stop.
It was a huge stop that they got, and really. Also, I mean, that play, I mean, you and I have our own opinions on Nick Sirianni.
Yeah.
The clock management at the end by Nick Sirianni was questionable. And that play to throw it on 3rd and 8, interesting stopping the clock and all that. The Lions should have had the ball back with about 1:45 to go, and that wasn't the case.
Get your Champ and Chump votes in. Let's get back to your phone calls. Champ and Chump brought to you by Sarah Chevrolet, Sterling Heights. Kentrell, you're next on 97.1. Hello, Kentrell.
Hi, and it's Chantel, not Cantrell.
Okay, sorry, Chantel. Thank you for your patience.
It's okay. Thank you for taking the call. My chant, unfortunately, has to go with the Eagles. They didn't do as they were supposed to have done, top Eagle form, but they did win, which all that mattered. My chant, I'm sorry, Goff, he made some horrible calls. And to continue keep throwing at Brown and y'all not connecting throughout the entire game, that was the biggest upset for me. It's like he kept trying to build up the confidence, like, all right, if we just get one more or a couple catches from St. Brown, then we could find our rhythm. It's like, yeah, I want to see more involvement from Wright and Tesla. I know that they're young, I know that they're fresh, but I want to see more activity or more involvement with those two, especially with Laporta not being on the field last night.
Well, Laporta not being on the field didn't help. Is more Brock? It's an Chantrell. I think it's such a tough call. Goff to Amon-Ra has been so good the last few years. Something appears to be a little bit off this year, and Amon-Ra. I keep saying if my life depended on a throw and catch, that's where I'd want the football to go.
Yeah.
But something isn't quite as good this year, is it?
Well, I will say the first note I had before the game started, I wrote down like a few things that I was going to look at. And one was with no Sam Laporta, does that mean that Tesla steps up or lots of Brock Wright? I thought last night would have been an interesting opportunity to use Tesla in a Sam Laporta role with Sam Laporta routes as opposed to, being the true tight end and blocking and all that. Although maybe Tesla can handle that. He's a big, strong kid, but he's not as big and strong as Sam Laporta. But I thought it would have been interesting to see him running those routes that Laporta runs. I'm a big Brock Wright guy, and I thought maybe we might see more of that from Brock Wright, and we didn't. Now, there was another batted pass that was definitely going Brock Wright's way. Don't know what that would have done, but nonetheless, no Sam Laporta made that was a huge impact on the team that I don't know we didn't see coming until middle of last week.
Yeah.
That Laporta's out. What do you mean he's out? Not only is he out, he's on IR.
248-539-9797. Doug Karsh, Scott Anderson, 97.1. Michigan Auto Law, auto accident attorneys. They put people over everything. They also specialize only in auto and truck accidents. Many law firms don't do that. But if you're in an accident, who do you go to? You go to the specialist. Michigan Auto Law has had the largest auto accident settlement of any lawyer or law firm in Michigan. They have the largest truck accident settlement of any lawyer or law firm in Michigan. They are board certified. They have taught over 300 truck accident legal seminars in 26 states. How about that on the resume? Visit them online at autolaw.com. That's autolaw.com. That's Jared Goff talking about the Amon-Ra thing. You know, to the previous caller, this is so funny when you look back. How many targets did you say? You got the stats in front of you, right?
Yeah.
How many targets did Brock Wright have?
7.
Do you know how many Laporta averages?
I was going to say, I bet you he averages around 7.
It's 5.5. They went to Brock Wright last night. So the previous caller wanted more Brock Wright. You got more Brock Wright than you typically get out of Laporta.
They also threw more times last night.
True. They got, yeah, that's true.
But yes, no, nonetheless, I mean, Brock Wright was that's the facsimile, right?
Yeah.
If there's no Sam Laporta, what is your tight end? Well, they threw the tight end just as much as they typically would. So that's not there. What stands out is, there have been games where Goff has completed passes to like 9 different receivers.
Mm-hmm.
This was not one of those games. This was passes being thrown to only 6 receivers. 5 of them caught passes. I mean, when you see passes caught, receptions in the game, and the leader is 5, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. J-Mo had 4. Amon-Ra had 2. Brock Wright had 2, and David Montgomery had 1. It was just not a good day.
And once again, I mean, it's early in the week. Hell, we're in the first hour of the first show of the week. But are they going to respond? They always do. They always bounce back.
Well,
but and
they play the Giants on Sunday.
Yeah, they should. They're a 10.5 point
yeah.
favorite. But you got the Giants coming up,
and then short week with Packers.
Yep, and then you got after that Dallas, and I suspect they're going to be favored in the next 3 games. Maybe not the Packer game, but I bet they're favored in the Packer game.
Well, the better news, I think,
which doesn't mean anything. It just points out that they're expected to win, and they weren't expected to win last night, and they didn't.
A couple home games here, which you like to see, but the other thing is they're getting guys back. Terrion Arnold is going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Reed is coming back. That's going to help out a defense that played really well against Philadelphia. It's going to help out their defenses moving forward to get your top 2 corners back on this team. It's the offensive line that has been concerned. Tate Ratledge missed parts of the game last night. They had to bring in Tristan Colon to play guard on a couple of those plays. Penei Sewell had to left after a series to go get his ankle retaped, and he's banged up. We know Taylor Decker is banged up. They're already on their backup left guard. That's still going to be a question. And how healthy can they get? Are they going to get any offensive linemen back? Looks like Miles Frazier is going to come back to this team real soon. But he's a rookie. Have no idea what to expect from a guy that got hurt in the preseason.
Don't. But I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued. Yeah, I'm intrigued.
And I might become more intrigued.
But it might be. It's the same thing that happened last year with Mahogany. The difference is one guy's coming off an injury, the other guy was coming off a mono.
Let's go to D in Detroit. You're next here on 97.1. Hello, D.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
What's up?
Hey, Dave.
I got a champion and chump for you.
Go ahead.
My champ is the Lions defense. They played a great game, great scheme by the coordinator. Overall, great game. Unfortunately, we didn't get the win. But my chump is the Chicago Bear fans. All these Bear fans coming out the woodwork. I'm talking about at midnight. They all on social media. We the kings of the North. This is our year. And these next 7 games, they're gonna go 1-6. The only team I got them beating is Cleveland. That's the only team I got them beating. See, the Steelers gonna beat them this week. We're gonna beat them in January. The Packers gonna beat them twice. I don't see them beating nobody else but Cleveland, and they all happy. Yeah, the Lions had a bad game offensively yesterday, but we're beat up. Our O-line is a little hurt. Our corners are banged up, but our corners did good yesterday. I believe that the Lions are still going to win the NFC North. You don't hear Kansas City fans crying. They're not in first place right now, but they still believe in their team. I'm a diehard Lion fan. Go Lions, go blue.
Well, hey, appreciate the phone call, D. It's funny how sometimes things get under your skin. Like at the end of that game, just the fan and the total unrealistic, over-the-top fan in me. They showed a cutaway late in the game when Philly was going to win, like after the bogus pass interference.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed a cutaway of Nick Sirianni, and I'm like, look at that smarmy effing face. Like, I was like totally sick of seeing his face, and I'm like, this isn't fair. But look at that smarmy smile. Yeah, he should be smiling. They were going to win the game, but
there is a little bit of a disconnect between the look that you see from Sirianni to actually the substance that comes out of his mouth when you hear him talk.
Yeah,
he's a little bit different.
He's obviously a damn good coach.
He's an outstanding coach.
He comes across as
I don't like looking at him on a sideline. Like he's got the punchable face and the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But then when you actually hear him talk, you're like, wow, he's actually a normal guy.
There's just such a smarminess to him. There's such a
look.
Perceived smarminess to him. But
it's a look.
It's not perceived.
Well, two toughest schedules remaining in the NFL, okay? The rest of the way, based upon opponents' winning percentage, belong to the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Now, the Lions isn't easy. The Lions is number 9 on the top 10 and the rest of the way. But if you're hoping that those teams are going to start to accrue some losses, they might.
Well, it's because you're playing games against teams that have winning records. Well, within your division, obviously.
That's exactly what
I mean. This is what we're getting at because this is a tough ass division.
Yep. Green Bay also has to go out play. They got to take on Denver. And you look at
Minnesota's not an easy. Minnesota beat the Lions.
Chicago has to play Philly. They have to play San Francisco. Pittsburgh game. I mean, he called it a loss. What's the status of Aaron Rodgers? Has that been determined?
They think he may have a fractured left wrist, but will A-Rod just say tape it up?
Go get some holistic healing.
Right.
Al in Southfield, you are next. What's up, Al?
Hi, Doug and Scott. I wanted to comment on Dan Miller's what Dan Miller had to say last night doing the Sports Works, and then I'm going to give my champ and chump of the week. Well, the week, and then I'll have a short PSA at the end.
Maybe. I don't got a ton of time, so be quick.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Dan Miller said that he did not think that Philadelphia outclassed the Detroit Lions last night, and concerning the score of 16-9. And I agree with them that concerning the fact that the LA Chargers got beaten like a drum by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the final score is 35-6. And my champ for the weekend is Dennis Jenkins. I mean, he shot one from the logo during the Philadelphia game on Friday night, and all I can say is move over Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark.
It was at the end of the quarter. I think it's one of those prayers that you throw up. It wasn't an actual. Let's step back and
still
shoot
love
right?
Dennis Jenkins.
Yeah,
Dennis Jenkins has been great, but
good couple games for him.
And I have two chumps. Both of them have to do with officiating.
Okay, you got to be quick here, Al.
Yeah. The SEC officials that had handled the Florida Mississippi game, there was a call against George Gums Jr. for face mask, and it's a 15-yard penalty. But because it was during the time they were getting ready to set up for the field goal. But what should have happened?
Okay, Al, who's your second chump?
Okay, that's my second chump is the official that called the
play last night.
All
right, thank you. Let's go to who do we got next? Chris, you're next on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Chris.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up?
Always listen to the show. I want to preface this somewhat positively. The first Lions jersey I've purchased since Calvin Johnson's was a Dan Campbell jersey. I consume all media on this team. I listen to you guys daily. I watch every game. I wanted him to take over play calling. Do you think him taking over play calling put him in like tunnel vision for that game? Because that was a field position defensive game. Like that was not working.
Don't know.
What was also happening on.
It's a valid question. I mean, he himself said it spreads the duties around when he's calling plays. Did he call? That looked like he called plays for a shootout.
It just wasn't working. And I love Dan Campbell. He turned this team around. Anyone who's calling for his job or Jared Goff, I think they're crazy. I don't know. Like the few little, and again, this is going to the offense now, but the few like little flat route dumps they made to Gibbs, those took it to the house. Like it just, I feel like I love his stubbornness sometimes, but I feel like if it's not working, he's like, well, we're going to make it work, and he's just going to run through it. And against these Super Bowl teams, they're going to game plan for you, and it might not work.
He addressed it, Chris. I don't know. He addressed it, Chris, and he basically said, yep, it's who I am. And sometimes we're going to, more often than not, it works for us. It did not work last night. And but he addressed it. You'll hear him as the show goes on. It's Carson Anderson here on 97.1.
Brought to you by Moran Buick GMC. Per ESPN Shams Charania, Detroit Pistons superstar Cade Cunningham has reached a new 6-year endorsement agreement to re-sign with Nike. Cunningham will receive his own signature shoe with the brand, which is expected to debut next season. He becomes the 6th active NBA player to have a signature shoe with Nike, joining LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ja Morant, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. That audio and excerpt from Cunningham's conversation with Durant for Boardroom's November cover story episode released this morning. Cade has missed the last 2 games with a left hip contusion, but is listed as questionable for tonight against the Pacers. That's an upgrade from last night's status. Currently averaging 28 points per game, 10 boards, 5 assists on 44% shooting. Pistons look to extend their win streak to 10 straight games tonight when they take on the Pacers at home at 7, right here on 97.1. At the Caldwell Health Sports Desk, I'm Brendan Shabath. For more, go to 97.1 The Ticket or Odyssey.com.
All right, it is Carson Anderson here on 97.1. Rough one last night. Rough one. And look, there's no reason, nor do I care to even attempt to sugarcoat what we saw. There were major issues last night, and some of which of them are most real? Well, my biggest concern is the way Philly's defense impacted the Lions' otherwise potent passing game. There was issues with passes batted down. It was the fact that the quarterback, I would say, had a uncharacteristically bad game in terms of accuracy. I don't want to overstate the case. I don't want to understate the case. But I'll ask the question: what's going on with Amon-Ra and the Goff Amon-Ra connection? But the good news is there's a lot of football to be played, and teams are not chess pieces that only move one direction. Things can be different from week to week. I do like this coaching staff. And Dan Campbell, do we have that long Dan Campbell cut, Kang? I'm sorry, the long one about where he wasn't all doom and gloom. And it was kind of it was how I was feeling when when I was thinking about this game. All right, what are they going to do about this? Like, what do they do? You don't white flag and say, season's over, we're not better than Philly. Here's what Dan Campbell had to say about trying to put this performance into perspective and what it means moving forward. That last part, we're going to hit our stride in the back half of the season. What does he believe that because of injuries, or does he believe it because he knows how to fix what he saw?
I mean, I'm sure it's a combo of those things. But, as much as they're right there and there were some plays that they missed out, I'm sure he's referring to 4th down plays and it went 0 for 5.
Yeah.
Philly's saying the same thing. Philly doesn't get stopped on the tush push, and yet they were stopped on the tush push a number of times in the game.
Yeah, it was great.
And they shot themselves in the foot. Well, they didn't. They got called for a false start that should have been in a neutral zone infraction against the Lions. Lions caught a huge break on that one.
It was weird.
Yeah, it really was.
It was like that guy was trying to get
hey, he's pawing at me. Well, don't point it out.
You don't have to do anything. They're going to call the penalty, and he...
But regardless, so I think both teams are saying the same. They could say the same thing. In the end, it's a frustrating loss. And I think early on, and this probably could have been part of the strategy before, it could have been a strategy before the game when you recognized how bad the wind was and how that was going to take kicking out of the game or play a significant role depending on which way you were kicking from. To me, I thought that this should have been recognized early that this was a game of field position.
Yeah.
And that's where it bothered me.
Yeah.
I love Dan Campbell. He's my coach. I would love to have played for a guy like Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's amazing. And I think he's the perfect coach for this team. And I don't really want him to change who he is. But that being said, I felt like this was one where you should recognize we need to play this for field position. And you'd recognize that your defense is playing strong.
It's going to be a low-scoring game.
It's going to be low-scoring when you're at midfield or just your side of midfield and you're going for it on fourth down. And there were a number of times they went for it. It wasn't just 4th and 1. They're going for 4th and 5, 4th and 6. Punt the ball. And I know that it's not really in his DNA, but last night was a night where I was like, I wish it wasn't in your DNA last night, because pinning them deep helps you out too, because then you get to work on a short field if your defense holds
If your
serve.
defense does what the defense ended up doing all night, which was make life difficult on Philly.
So this is why when I look at the game, I say it's more of a Dan Campbell loss than it is a Jared Goff loss or anything else. To me, it's on Dan Campbell because they didn't recognize that. They didn't play for that. And I know that that's his style of play, and that's okay. And like I said, I still love the guy. I enjoy watching the team play. Last night was a game where I think that was a mistake, and I think that could have cost them at one, maybe just one of those drives if they ended up punting instead of going for it. If just one of those results in the Lions getting the ball in Philadelphia territory because Fox is able to pin him deep and they're not able to get the ball out.
And he's good at that.
Yeah. That was a part to me that at the end of the game, like that's a big miss.
Well, and that's something that's correctable, and I hope that they would next time if they get another shot at Philly.
If it's something like this, the same conditions, I mean, Philadelphia in the first half had 3 drives in Lions territory. It only resulted in 3 points, and that was on the first drive. When they had the interception. Yeah. The Lions defense came to play despite there were some holes. I thought Aiden Hutchinson made a couple mistakes, biting on plays and going inside rather than keeping contained on the outside. And then he's got to scramble, come back. But by and large, that defense played winning football without a doubt. They gave him 16 points in the game. That was it. Against a potentially potent offense that's dealing with some issues. But the fact that they stuffed them, I think there were 3 plays that they stuffed on the tush push.
Yep.
Teams don't do that.
No.
The Lions did. Nice job.
Some stumps in there, as Calvin Shepard said last week.
Yeah, I think in the cut, though, that's what Campbell's talking about. He's also including himself as they're going to get better, including himself to how to call a game, what to work on strategy-wise, when to punt, when to go for it. Of course, he's still going to be ultra-aggressive. That's in their DNA as a team, but maybe not on this one. Maybe we don't have to go again on this one, depending on how the game is going. I think what Campbell's talking about too, though, Doug, in that cut is, of course, Philly needs to work on things too. They don't look like a completely well-oiled machine either, but they won the game. So I think when you lose a game, though, there's more urgency to fix things. And he's talking about peaking at the right time.
Yep.
This is a team that just needs to get into the playoffs and play their best football when the playoffs start. Because that's what it's all about now, right? The regular season success doesn't mean it nearly as much as it used to when they got here. Now it's about postseason success. And what he wants to do is get all this stuff cleaned up, get into the playoffs, and then peak then. And so when you lose games, I think there's more urgency to fix those things.
No question. Let's go to Mike on a Cellular next. What's up, Mike?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I got a champ and chump for you.
Let's go.
My champ is going to be, weirdly as it is the Chicago Bears holding first place for the first time in a long time in the North. I know it might be temporary, but good for them. Let them have their flowers for today. My chump is going to be what Gator just said, Aiden Hutchinson. You just got paid $141 million, and you're having half a sack and 2 total tackles, in a game that you said is a must-win. At a backup right tackle when their all-pro tackle goes out, and you have the chance to line up on the left or right side whenever you want, because Kelvin Shepard gave you that freedom. How are you having half a sack? You need to be out there batting balls down just like the other first-round picks on the other side are if you can't get there, and you need to get there. There's no excuse.
Well, it's a little different, too, because those guys are playing in the middle of a defensive line as opposed to being the edge rusher. Those guys aren't necessarily just coming after the quarterback. They can lay back and jump up in the air. Aiden's coming after the quarterback the whole time, and he's double-teamed on every play. The plays I was making reference to they were running plays where he went to the inside, and the play ends up coming on the outside. And if he had kept contained, he'd be in position to make a TFL.
Set the edge?
Yeah.
Weesum and Fenton, you're next. What's up, Weesum?
Hey, gentlemen, appreciate the call, allowing it to go through. I just want to say, I'm really frustrated because I do feel like Dan Campbell blew it completely because, as a coach, as a manager of the game, you have to play situational football. And you're right that field position was critical in that weather, that environment. And had he recognized that the defense playing elite and the offense is struggling, then you want to lean on your defense and give them an opportunity to pin them back at the 20-yard line and then have them make plays because they were locked down. I mean, their corners were playing outstanding, our corners, and they were locking down the receivers. So I think he kind of blew the opportunity, and I think he regrets the heck out of it, and I think he's going to make the necessary changes that he needs to make.
Yeah, he said after the game, it's who we are, and usually it works out for us. There were a number of occasions where I'm like, no, punt it here. This is amazing. This is the Lions' possessions and how they ended in the second and third quarters. Turnover on downs, touchdown, turnover on downs, turnover on downs, turnover on downs.
Yeah, you had a 2-play drive resulting in a touchdown. 2 plays.
It was 3, but they put up 2 plays on the stat. I don't know why, but anyway, sorry, go ahead.
And then the other 5 are turnovers on downs.
Yeah. At end of the day, the turnover on downs thing, I logged the game and I kept writing turnover on downs. I'm like, I've never wrote this much all season did they turnover on downs, but it's crazy. And one of those was a fake punt.
Now, I do think also that my reaction to this and blaming Dan Campbell for last night and saying you should recognize this is going to be a field position game, I think it's germane to the game last night. It's not germane to the rest of the season. That's not how I'm playing the rest of the season. It depends on who you're playing and how the game flow is. Games at home have nothing to do with what happened last night. Last night was a win game. You had to worry about that and field position and all that. Where it matters is if you're going against a team that is presenting defensive challenges to your offense and your defense is showing up and stopping their offense, then maybe that's the perfect storm.
You got to adjust as the game goes on. Yeah.
Otherwise, look, go ahead, turn it loose, go for it on 4th down every time you want. I don't have a problem with it. Last night I had a problem with it because of what was presented in front of you.
Dan Campbell's coached a lot of damn good football. Jared Goff has played a lot of damn good football. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson. Like, these are all people that are...
These are all pro players.
Yeah, that did not have their typical performance. And you credit Philly for that. Okay, let's be clear. And, so the question is, if you now got to get back to that spot to prove that they're not just better than you. They were better than you last night. But it's up to the Lions themselves to prove to themselves, to us, to the world, and it's not that Philly is that much better than you. They just were last night. 248-539-9797. It's Carson Anderson here on 97.1. Twin Peaks fans, want to double down today and talk about the best happy hour in the state. That's right. When I hear the specials, they remind me of the college days and deals that got you hooked when you were on a budget. When dining out experience has really taken a turn in terms of service and the cost of eating out going through the roof, they've doubled out on happy hour. They got the $5 U-Call-Its and the $7 Big Baller Shot Caller. If you're a Tito's drinker, $5. Jack Crown Bacardi, $5. Take it a step higher with Grey Goose, Patron, Maker's Mark, $7. There's many options to choose from at those prices, too. And what makes it even better, food deals. You really can get a shot, a 22-ounce draft beer poured at a bone-chilling 29 degrees, and an in-house smoked chicken quesadilla, all for under $20. And there's the best part. It's all served by the beautiful Twin Peaks girls. Happy hour runs from 3 to 6 and 10 to close, Monday through Thursday. It's 3 to 6 and 10 to close, Monday through Thursday. You can definitely take advantage of those Monday and Thursday night football games with that late night happy hour. Come see how a sports bar really should feel. Twin Peaks eats, drinks, scenic views.
I thought he was going to go finish the line.
Do you think you thought he was going to go
Candy and nuts and the whole thing? Yeah.
My uncle had balls. My aunt had balls. She'd be my uncle. Isn't that what it is?
Something like that. Well,
yeah. Whatever it is.
Candy and nuts. We'd all have a Merry Christmas, I think is the way it typically finishes up. And here we are getting close to Christmas time.
Yeah. No, he didn't finish it. 248-539-9797.
You get the tree up yet, Doug?
No. No, but you know what? Again, I've got more time these days. I think I might try and decorate the outside of the house this year.
I mean, it's November 17th already. Nothing wrong with that. And
I got to look at, my wife is, why don't we hire somebody? I'm like, no, I want to do it. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, oh, you don't trust me. Okay. Challenge.
Challenge accepted?
Yeah. Oh, you're damn right it is. I got a lot to figure out though.
Yeah.
Like how to not make it look sloppy. How do I make it look professional?
I hear you. Yeah. I mean, do I need to get a stapler?
Well, I mean, we got brick, right? So how do you attach the lights to a brick? And I've seen some stuff online.
There's stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
you've got gutters.
I'm on my way.
You can work with.
Yeah, I'm going to figure this out. John on a cell. You're on 97.1. Hello, John.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I know everybody wants to, be all ramped up about this loss. I really look at it like, Dan Campbell before the game had said this would be a measuring stick. And I think what that means is we showed we could play with a good team like Philly and get really, really close. So the measuring stick is close, but I don't think you can fix this during the rest of the season. I think if you rush Jared Goff, he's not going to be able to throw the ball, and something like this doesn't get fixed during the course of the next 7 games. We're not in first place anymore. We're going to have to address that.
Offensive linemen, there were some bad teams but had players that they didn't want to move that might have helped. The guard in Cleveland, the Zeitler, the one who left, went to Tennessee. They didn't get moved.
Or Patino.
Yeah, and Patonio. So you're getting into these. They didn't get moved, and I would think that people called about them as teams were fading, but they want to give their young quarterbacks the best chance to be successful. So they're not just handing away good players because they know it'll hurt their quarterback's progress. But look, it might not. If they can't fix it, and they go to Philly in the postseason, A, they make it, and B, they go to Philly and have a similar performance, they'll be done. But I don't think it's something that they can't address.
No, I think it's something that can be addressed. I think it's something they can fix. Will it be as good as what it was last year? I don't suspect that's going to be the case because Frank Ragnow is one of the all-time greats. But I do hope, and I do have hope, that the problems that existed last night are fixable. And I would not expect Penei Sewell to get beat like he did a couple times in that game because he's been too good for too long to think that that's the norm. I think you got to keep in mind this is a team that they are still in flux on that offensive line. Guys were in and out with injuries again last night. Getting guys back, I'm not sure how healthy they are moving forward, getting guys back, but it looks like Miles Frazier could come back. I don't want to put all my eggs in the Miles Frazier basket, though.
No. I mean, you might
because he hasn't played a single down in the NFL.
Yeah, it's not it's not clearly a solution. It could be.
Full disclosure, I was a huge fan of the draft pick when they made him.
Yeah.
Like, they just got Miles Frazier. This could be pretty good.
Yep.
But I've been wrong before with draft picks, and it's basically awesome offensive linemen. So I do think it's something in the offseason that they're going to have to address and try to find an upgrade, whether that's the first-round pick they use or they go free agency.
Before we go to there's no way that the offensive line will be as good as it was last year, hence they're done. Keep in mind, the defense did a pretty admirable job last night. If they're going to win, the formula is definitely different than it was a year ago.
Yeah, I was with that first statement until the hence they're done. No, they're not done at all.
No.
I think this is something that they can get better at. I don't think it'll be as good as it was last year, but it can be good enough. And I do think the defense has taken some strides this year to being a better defense. The game last night shows you that. And knowing that there are reinforcements coming, that we're starting players. It's not, like we're talking about with the offensive line, hoping that backups get a chance to get healthy. It's talking about starters getting healthy. DJ Reed and Terrion Arnold getting healthy, and Kirby Joseph is the other one that's massive that we just haven't spent enough time talking about. Yeah. Kirby Joseph is an all-pro player. He is a ball hawk back there and a absolute difference maker, and they haven't had him for several weeks. The loss of Sam Laporta is a big loss for this Lions team, and maybe it just comes down to that last night. If Sam Laporta is healthy, is it a different ball game? You got another passing option to go to that you feel very comfortable with. He knows the offense. He helps out with the running game and his blocking schemes and all that. I think that's a big concern, is how they can respond without Sam Laporta for the next few games. And when he comes back, if he comes back, I hope he comes back, is he going to be 100%?
Well, it's crazy because we're all talking about the offensive problems, because the defense, they've been able to lean on the defense, and they've been great. And then they're getting all the players coming back. They should be even better. The issue with this team seems to be the offense and the offensive line. But how about the elephant in the room? I don't know if this is like a Stoney, is this a thing or not a thing? The ASB relationship with Jared Goff doesn't seem as good as it was last year. And last night was like the worst of all. Like, it looked like they just met before the game. That's how bad their connection was last night, or non-connection. And overall, he's only had 2 100-yard games this year. And he's not like a deep threat or anything like that, but it just doesn't look the same. There's been more noticeable drops on third down this year, or big drops, than there ever has been. Is that a thing or not a thing?
I don't know. And I suspect that there are going to be questions to Dan Campbell. We have a chance to ask Goff about it. It's just something appears to be off, and hopefully those guys can provide some insight, because what we're really talking about is whether or not it can be fixed. Like, what it's been, has everything that's happened so far. Look, they're 6-4, and they've probably earned 6-4. The question becomes, what can be fixed? Can the O-line be fixed? Okay, if it can't, how else are you going to find a formula to win games? And it might be lean on your defense. I don't love it, but you got to figure it out. 248-539-9797. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1. Jared Goff, Lions with they call it what it was. It was not their best performance. Credit Philadelphia. Is it exactly who these two teams are going to be the rest of the way? No, but certainly advantage Philly right now. Can the Lions make whatever adjustments? Can they coach them up? Can they figure some stuff out to get back on Philly's level, or to be considered on Philly's level, or just to importantly beat Philly on a January weekend if necessary? Well, that is yet to be told. I don't think it's impossible, but I think there's work to be done. The good news is, and there's not a ton of it, but the good news is whatever game plan they thought would work, they were wrong. And it's better to have that performance in the middle of the regular season than in the postseason, but still a bit disturbing to say the least, and stuff needs to get addressed. 248-539-9797. Champ and Chump, get those votes in. On a Monday, we go to Brian in Detroit. Hello, Brian.
What's up, Doug? It's
Brian.
not a negative, but it's not a negative. But Dan was, last week, he had his glasses on looking like a genius against the Washington Generals. Man, the only way they could come back from this is to play a good defensive team. Playing next week is not a test. You can't tell me everything is great after last week. He's a genius calling plays. And then for him to be so clueless to realize his defense is playing top-notch and he still want to go for it all them times on 4th and 1. That's just being clueless. So I don't want to hear nothing about against some weak team. We go find out against Green Bay on Thanksgiving. Because you can't come back against bad teams and tell us everything is beautiful.
Well,
and
Brian,
you run against a good defense.
I don't know who you're.
I
I suspect you're just talking to the general public because we said repeatedly last week that the real test is coming up Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
But you said talking about they got next week, couple weeks, they can respond. They can't respond until they play Green Bay.
Well, I would say this, Brian. I think the Giants present a pretty good defensive line, a pretty good pass rush that they can go with Thibodeau and others. I wouldn't discount that too much, but they're not Philadelphia. I understand that.
But let me put this out there: the Lions are a good team. Yes, they can beat Philly, but they got to play. Man, the way he called that game, I'm sitting there texting with my buddy. I'm asking, what is he doing? Man, your defense is outstanding, and you're trying to go on 4th and 1 all them times. After missing it 3 or 4 times, you think, why would you keep going for it? Why would you keep doing that?
As he said afterwards, it's who I am, and usually it works. But
who I am is not who.
You've got, Brian, you have to, I agree, read the game, the context of what is going on around you. This game was going to be, with the wind what it was, and the way that game was going, and the way the defense was playing, you could play it completely and probably should play that completely different than he did.
What I'm saying is, don't tell me that's who you are, like you got some ring on your finger from winning a championship. Yeah, if you got that, you could say that. You don't have that.
He does not.
Too, also, I agree with you, Gator. Like, maybe this wasn't the game to go for it at that many times because of the weather and just how the game was going. But also, sometimes you just don't got it. You know what I mean? Like in baseball, if a pitcher ain't got it, stop trotting him out there. In basketball, if you can't make the 3 tonight, stop shooting it. You guys couldn't make the 4th down tonight. I don't care what you called up. You couldn't block it. You couldn't execute it. Punt the ball. Play field position. You guys, you ain't got it tonight, man.
Adjust for what the game is showing.
It's not happening.
Frank is next on 97.1. Hello, Frank.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Okay.
First time, long time listener.
Appreciate it.
Well, the only thing I will say about that game last night is we need to do something with the offensive line. I know that's what other people said, but if you look at everything, Campbell going for it on 4th down, hey, it probably would have worked half the time if you had a line push. As far as Goff, he was getting massacred. There's no doubt about it. You're talking about batting down passes. Yeah, because the line was collapsing around him. The whole thing would have been a totally different game if we had concentrated on getting more players for the offensive line. That's my whole opinion about the game. I think we could have won that game if our offensive line was better.
Well, and we don't know if those players were available or not because there just weren't guys that were moved at the trade deadline, which I assume is what you're getting at. And it would have been nice to see them add to the offensive line. I wanted them to do that. I think a week or two prior to the deadline, that became the screaming need for the team It wasn't an edge rusher. You could have argued that it could have been a defensive back, but offensive line became the screaming need for the team at the deadline, and they did not address it eventually. But we don't know if anybody was available.
Well, and I'm even looking at the depth in the beginning of the season. I mean, personally, I think we could have done better there instead of getting another receiver. I mean, put some stock in that line.
Well, but they did. What you're saying, instead of getting another receiver, would mean like a Tesla?
Yeah.
Well, because they drafted another offensive lineman. They drafted Miles Frazier, and he got hurt right away in training camp.
Well, they drafted 2 interior offensive linemen.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's, I mean, they actually did address that.
That was before Ragnow announced his retirement.
Well, the draft, yes.
The draft took place. But, yeah, I mean, I hope there wasn't a deal that they turned down at the trade deadline that they regret. I hope there wasn't negotiations where, and here's what we don't know, okay? Did Brad Holmes get super stubborn and not want to give up that 5th-round pick or that 4th-round pick for an offensive lineman that could have helped? We don't know that. But if we find out he could have had Zeitler for that, that would be very disappointing. And it would probably be a mistake that cost him. What we also don't know is what was the asking price for a Zeitler. And could they have gone out and made one of those deals that helped at the trade deadline that helped them? Could they have got Bitonio from Cleveland for a reasonable price, and Brad didn't want to part with the draft picks? Like, that's the $1 million question. And we don't know the answers. I hope that's not the case. But yeah, offensive line play could have been better, but it wasn't just them too, right? I mean, there was a bunch of things, facets of the offense that let them down. 248-539-9797. Kyle is in Dearborn, and he is next. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I got to agree with Gator. I mean, I think that Campbell, you can't put it all on him. There's a bunch of stuff that went wrong, but I do think he kind of cost us the game. And if someone already commented on this, my apologies, but has anyone said, or have you guys thought about the JMO penalty and how huge that actually ended up being for us?
Yeah,
because
it's come up.
When that happened initially, I'm like, okay, stupid penalty. He needs to know the rules. But that totally changed the game because then an extra point is an isolated play. It's not like you're doing if he would have caught it, then maybe because then you could have a fumble, you could have penalties, whatever. That's an isolated play. And our kicker, he's like 33 for 34 on extra points. That's a 50-yard extra point in crappy conditions. So presumably, 96% or whatever that is, he's going to make the extra point. And even if the game goes as it did and they go up 13-7 at halftime, well, maybe Dan Campbell is not going for it on 4th down all the time. Maybe he is taking the field goal instead of having the weird, we're down by 7, we're down by 6, we're down by 4. You know what I mean?
But I suspect Dan Campbell's still going to do what Dan Campbell did, and which I contend is a mistake. But in the game last night, the other thing is, because the wind was such a factor, there's also no guarantee, even if JMO doesn't jump and hump the goalpost, that the extra point's going to go through.
There's not, but you can't make it harder.
No, I agree. Yeah, I'm not exonerating JMO.
Honestly,
that's a huge mistake that JMO made.
It's one of the occasions, something that was almost a weekly occurrence, which is nonsense, got in the way of the Lions winning. It hasn't done it much. That got in the way. That hurt the football team. And I don't feel like I need to coach. I have no clue how to be a football coach. I do need to tell. I think the one thing I would be right on is talk to the team about how much this kind of stuff can hurt you. And let them know there has to be accountability. There shouldn't be a tolerance for that. And I don't think this is a recurring problem with the team, but stop doing things that hurt your team. And it feels like one player's more prone to that than the rest. It needs when you say that could come back to haunt you. Last night might have been the haunt you. Last night might have been eventually it comes back. Last night might have been the eventually in a big game. And would it change the outcome? A point there helps. And it might change the approach of the head coach the rest of the way. When you're down 13-6 and you kick a field goal, when you're down 13-7, You kick a field goal 13-10 is a completely different thing than 13-9. At CGC Home Services, they know your family's health and comfort come first. That's why they provide top-quality plumbing solutions, advanced Connecticut water treatment, and air purification technology proven to reduce 99% of airborne bacteria, viruses, and mold. We've got them in our home. You should, too. From the faucets to the air we breathe, CGC Home Services is there to protect what matters most to us, our health and our family. Call CGC Home Services today at 855-339-4242 for cleaner water, cleaner air, and complete peace of mind. That's 855-339-4242. Or visit them at cgchomeservices.com. That's Dan Campbell, who, thinks that they're still everything can be addressed. We'll see if that's the case. But they've been good at bouncing back. They play a bad Giants team and then home game against Green Bay. And then after that, I think it's Dallas. Go 3-0 in those games, get to 9-4, get guys back on the field, hopefully without losing too many in between, and away you go. But, they got work to do. A ton of feedback coming in. Champ, Lions defense, Chump, Lions offensive line. That's from an unnamed texter. Good morning, gentlemen. Champ is the Detroit Pistons, injured and finding ways to continue to fight. Chump is Dan Campbell, all for his style. The 3 4-and-outs, he should have swallowed his pride and played field position football. Champ, Kelvin Shepard for neutering the tush push. Chump, Dan Campbell for not adjusting his bullheaded game plan. That's from Smitty. In W. Lansing, is there a West Lansing?
I don't. I think it's just Lansing.
West Lansing.
Yeah, there's Lansing, there's East Lansing.
North Lansing, South Lansing.
I think there is. Journey wrote a song about West Lansing, actually. So that means it exists.
Yeah, there you go.
Born and raised West Lansing.
I've never heard of now, is he in the western side of Lansing? Is that what he's referencing?
Sure, like Southwest Detroit.
Yeah. Is he describing the area of Lansing he is? Or is he saying he is in the town of West Lansing? Never heard.
Do they play that at Lugnuts games?
I would hope so. If not, they should, yeah.
Kelvin Shepard, getting some love, and he deserves it. Defensively, they put together a good game plan. And, oh, by the way, Dan Campbell's part of that, too. Yeah. I get it, but as the head coach, it all falls under his umbrella.
1 for 6 in the tush push, Philadelphia was. And I'm sure much of that give credit to the Lions defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to give some credit to the NFL wanting to crack down on this and make sure that there's no false starts that are committed, making sure that the formation is correct and not an illegal formation. There's a lot more scrutiny on the tush push than ever before. And the Lions may have just given a template to the rest of the league on how to stop it, although you have to have the personnel that's able to do it. These guys submarined that offensive line and allowed Jack Campbell and Trevor Nowatzki and others to do what they have to do and get the stops. It was fun to see them stop, because when you see that tush push formation, you're automatically thinking, great, here we go. There's another set of 4 downs, and that wasn't the case last night.
Stan's in Shelby Township, and next. Hello, Stan.
Good morning, everyone. My champ of the week is Josh Allen. Just played great, and I'm grateful that you guys allow me to ask you questions I have no answer to. You know more about football than I do. In the first series, my chump is the NFL. In the first series, Aiden was held by their great offensive tackle for a holding call. They lost 10 yards.
Yep.
Why doesn't the NFL keep records of holding penalties? Because it has such a dramatic effect as much as a sack. Is there something I don't
how many
understand?
times a player is held?
Yeah, that
Right.
results in a holding penalty that the offense gets penalized 10 yards or whatever. Why don't they do that? Is there something I don't understand?
No, I think it's a fair question. I think it's personally, I'd love to see a stat like that and to see how defensive players are, how teams target them or how they make mistakes against those defensive players. Because it works the other way, and we certainly see how many times a cornerback has been called for pass interference.
Yep.
But what if there's offensive interference against the
quick
guy?
Offensive
holding
Google
against
search.
the defensive lineman. I like that.
Quick Google search says the
This
NFL
is
does
what I
not
like
track
about
it.
you, Doug. You're Googling.
Yeah,
Way to
well,
go.
it's there for you too, Stan.
I
But
know.
it says the
But
NFL
I
does not
trust
track
you
the
more
number of
than Google.
times. It does not track the number of times a player is held. They should. That's a valid point.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
And by the way, these 6 weeks is going to be really exciting. Could be as exciting, and I hope the results are like in 2023. Good luck, Lions.
Yeah, look, the 2023 team won. They go 12-5. They lost 5 games in the regular season and made it to the NFC title game.
Yep.
Most people thought that this was I went back and looked at the preseason predictions. There were more 11-6s than there were 13-4s. but that means you have to lose games to get there, and this was clearly one of the more losable games.
Yeah, I would imagine that people, if you had a Lions loss, when you do the win-loss game prior to the season, this was probably one you had as an L. It doesn't mean I like it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see them lose, but okay, if full disclosure, yeah, I think this was a game I probably had them losing. On the road against the defending Super Bowl champions is not an easy game to play.
Nope. Al is in Shelby Township and next on 97.1. Hello, Al.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Gentlemen. So I was at the game last night, and I'll tell you, that game was ours for the taking. I'm telling you. The defense was doing their job. Offense couldn't do a thing. And it was disappointing. It really was, because the Philly fans were complaining just as much about the Eagles, and because neither side was doing anything, really. But like you guys said, the Eagles found a way to win, and it clearly shows when we're missing our key players. It really does. It shows, man. I mean, I get it. It's throughout the NFL, but
I would push back a little bit and say, I'd push back a little bit when he said the Lions couldn't do anything. I mean, Jared Goff did have 255 yards passing in the game. They did have several plays that were explosive plays over 30 yards. The problem that they ran into is they couldn't sustain it. And they would go for it on fourth down, third and fourth down, where they typically would make those conversions, and they weren't making those conversions. That killed them.
Agreed.
That
now,
absolutely killed them. But they did have some explosive plays.
Let me ask you guys this. Did some of those throws look just as bad on TV as what I was seeing out there? Oh, my God.
Some of them, I think, were just some were throwaways, or recognize, okay, the rush is coming in. I'm just going to throw it either into the ground at somebody's feet, or I'm going to throw it into the stands because the stands are always open. But there were also plays that were the passes that were thrown were just bad passes.
Yeah. Hey, one other point before I let you guys go. For all I have heard, and I'm sure everybody has ever heard about the Philly fans, they were absolutely phenomenal to us.
Oh, that's cool.
I cannot say enough. And I'm telling you guys, we were at a hotel where the Eagle players were staying. And we didn't know that, right? So the Eagle fans are everywhere, and they're getting autographs and this and that. But it never stopped. We had people welcoming us to their city. They were cool. Like, "Hey, be safe going home." It really was cool, because for all we have ever heard, that was fantastic to see and hear.
Al, you can be loud. You can support your team. You can make it a tough place to play, but you don't have to be a jackass. And I'm glad to hear that.
That may be different if they lost, but
true.
We'll take it.
Greg's in Detroit, and next, hello, Greg.
Hey guys.
What's up?
Love the show as always. Really appreciate you guys. You guys are my champ as always. Really quickly, I just wanted to make a quick comment that Tesla is our Puka Nakua. I hope somebody recognizes that. And two, I think handing over the offensive reins is a little bit premature, because one, that Vikings game, I don't care who was the offensive coach that game, we weren't going to win it. Then the next week, I don't care who was the offensive coach against Washington, we were going to win it. And so
probably right.
So I wish we could just go back to that. But here's a point that I really want to make, guys. The Detroit Lions, the new Detroit Lions, are a team that's unprecedented, breaking every trend, every NFL trend. The Detroit Lions have convinced me, since playing San Francisco, that it's offense that wins championships. That's how different this team is built. And along the way, the Detroit Lions have found their identity. They found their identity in Gibbs and Montgomery, and of course, St. Brown, Lasorda, and Jamo. However, we're relying on the one identity, and that's the running game. And the passing attack, which we have, it should be aerial assaults because of the level of talent in the passing game.
Greg, we're out of time. Appreciate it, buddy. We're out of time.
That wasn't going to happen last night.
The passing game wasn't an aerial assault. And
14 out of 37.
Uncharacteristic. Credit Philly. They got to fix it against the better defenses moving forward, and they have Green Bay coming up on Thanksgiving Day, a week from Thursday. Carson Anderson, 97.1.
Brought to you by Sam Bernstein Law Firm. The Pistons return to the floor tonight on a 9-game win streak. Detroit leads the Eastern Conference at 11-2 this year. It's also home to the newest member of the Nike Signature Shoe Club, as ESPN Shams Charania reported this morning that Cade Cunningham has signed a 6-year extension with Nike, which will include his own shoe set to debut next season. This is just another example of Detroit being home to one of the league's biggest stars. We could see Cade back in action tonight after he's missed the last 2 games with a left hip contusion. He was listed as doubtful for those contests, but was upgraded to questionable this morning. Tonight, the Pistons will be at home taking on the Pacers, who have had a dismal start to the year with a 1-12 record and an active 7-game losing streak. Detroit slowly getting healthier. Asar Thompson was seen at morning shoot-around moments ago. He has been out with a right ankle sprain for over a week. Pre-game coverage starts tonight right here on the Ticket at 6:35. Here, tip-off at 7 o'clock. At the Corewell Health Sports Desk, I'm Brendan Shabath. For more, go to 97.1 The Ticket or Odyssey.com.
Okay. We've spent 2 hours talking about last night's game. Something almost hasn't been addressed at all that was big, and it's pretty much unanimous. And we'll get to that today at 12:20. Hasn't been touched on. I think it got one brief mention. 12:20, we'll get to that. In the meantime, people venting on a Monday, champ and chump. Look, it wasn't a great game for the Detroit Lions. The question is this reflective of a definitive, is this who they are? Not good enough. Or was it an example of just being not good enough on a given Sunday? I tend to lean towards the second part, but it's a fair question. If your conclusion is they're just not good enough, I'm not mad at you. I just disagree with you. Dan Campbell seems to think that they could address it and they can get better. You know, the offensive line is still a bit of a work in progress, and that is, you know, they've got some veterans in there, but can they be better than they were last night? That doesn't mean they're going to be great, but can they be better against a team like Philly than they were last night if they happen to come across them again? Yes, I think they can be better, but they're probably not. The formula to win big is different than it was a year ago, because the offense doesn't look to be as much of a well-oiled machine, but the defense looks to be better. To be consistent, I would rather look like they did last year. I would rather have an offense hitting on all cylinders because of my belief of that's what wins in this league. But Philadelphia carried a very strong defense to the Super Bowl, and they kind of broke a trend of really offensive dominant teams being the ones that are there in the end. But I give Philly credit. There's more than one way to get to a finish line. I think hard and fast rules in sports are foolish. But Philly's better than Detroit right now. They are right now. Does this win send the Lions back to the drawing board? Does this win get this coaching staff to put together more effective game plans to execute? Look at some different lineups maybe, or address certain things that just weren't good enough? I would hope so. It's been a very competent coaching staff, so I suspect that they will do some things to make themselves better. Dan Campbell's been a very good coach. The one question we have about Dan Campbell that is fair to ask today, and we've been asking it, Gator, if you're going to have a coach that is, quote, true to himself and always go for it in situations where there's any debate, and it feels like if there's any debate, he's going to err on the side of going for it, can he change and adjust to the type of game that's being played? You made a long and lengthy argument that he did not do that, and you were right. Can they change? Will he continue to do what he did last night, or will he say, you know what, not today, not the way this game is going?
And I think everything is going to be dictated by circumstance. I don't think you have one approach in all games.
Are you sure? Because he didn't do it last night. He didn't adjust. Hey, I got a strong
I'm telling
defensive
you what I
team.
think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But
I think last night was a mistake by him, and I think he should have recognized early on that the defense is going to be good here. Weather's a problem. We need to play the field position game, and by not doing that, by staying true to yourself and always going for it on the fourth down thing, and not always, but seemingly always, it's a mistake. I thought last night was a mistake. And I think you have to make that adjustment when you see the need to make the adjustment. You can start the game with that mentality, but once you realize, yikes, this weather is a problem.
But that's the question. Will he?
I don't think he will. I don't know.
Because punting and playing
part
defense,
of me is hoping that he will. That it's just a stubborn reaction immediately after the game. Maybe tomorrow when he comes on with a morning show, that maybe he's going to have a different take on that. The other thing is, I don't know how often these circumstances are going to come up, right?
When you're when your defense is dominating,
when your defense is dominant, and when you have an outdoor game where the weather's a real problem, and all this, right? And you're playing again. The other big factor is, and you're taking on a team that is very good defensively.
Yeah.
Like this is like the perfect
playing
storm.
Field position felt like it would work last night.
Yeah, the perfect storm last night for you to finally say, okay, let's hold off on going for it on fourth down, and let's play field position game. And they didn't do it, and he didn't do it.
Kang, do you think he will adjust moving forward, or do you think he's just always going to pedals down? It's who I am.
If it's an adjustment, it's slight. I think that's who he is, but he needs to learn that. And I think he kind of spoke to it last night after the game about, he's got to be better. I think he will realize, hey, there are times that I should really consider not going for it. And I think all the stuff that you stated, Gator, is true. Like, the game, the weather, all that stuff. But I also go back to this. Sometimes you ain't got it. Like your best three-pointer shooter ain't got it. Stop drawing up plays for him. For this game, if your best hitter is like, he looks lost out there, maybe you go to somebody else. I think last night, didn't matter what play they're going to call. This team did not have it on fourth down. They looked completely disconnected. They were missing assignments. And then you put into the fact that everything else, Gator, you said the defense was playing great. You have a great punter. So you can lean on that other stuff if you ain't got it that night. And so I think Dan Campbell just needs to recognize that moving forward.
I'd like him not to be tin cup all the time and always going for it, for the movie reference with Kevin Costner. There were those 2 rounds in the U.S. Open in the movie where he actually played conservatively and did just fine. Got himself in contention.
But I think the way Dan Campbell plays this is, you play blackjack, Gator, and you know the rules, Doug. You always double down on 11, right? That's what they say. If you continually lose, at some point, do you say, you know what, I'm not going to do it this time? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes you go, and sometimes you get a little gun shy.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to always,
I feel like Dan Campbell,
I'm not always going to split, on
he
this.
always doubles down. He doesn't care, what's gone and what's happened, what's going on.
All right, let's get back to your phone calls. Champ and Chump on Mondays. Jake and Franklin, you're on 97.1. Hi, Jake.
Greetings, gentlemen. After seeing the game, I think the difference between both teams had nothing to do with what was on the field. The biggest difference to me, I think the biggest difference is what each executive did at the trade deadline. That Jalen Phillips guy that they picked up from Miami for a third-round pick, he killed us. He beat Sewell at least one time, possibly 2. Couldn't stop him. Pressure. And that was a need they filled. They needed a need. They gave up a third-round pick. They picked that guy up. He worked seamlessly in their team. And we didn't – whatever our needs were, and maybe they tried, maybe they didn't, maybe we don't know what the asking price was, but that guy can always get it done. Roseman can always get it done. He fills the need. And he was the difference last night. And, amongst other things, but he was a big part of that game. And they picked him up at the trade deadline, and we didn't – we didn't have it. Now you say, well, we didn't have third-round picks maybe like we used to because we gave them up for Tesla, and we're not playing Tesla. So now you don't have to give because you screwed up maybe somewhere else. So
yeah, I mean,
what happened off the field seemed to be more significant than what happened on.
It might be in the end. It might burn them. And we, like you said, we don't know what was on the table for them, what he had a chance to get, what he had, what he might have turned down. What response did they even call on Jalen Phillips? I mean, the one thing about Howie Roseman is does he always get it done? Well, he's built some winners. Last year, they didn't make a move at the trade deadline, and they won the Super Bowl. But
because they didn't need to.
Yeah, this year they made 3 moves. One of them, the guy's likely out of football, and Jair Alexander. Another one, we'll see if he impacts the team. But that one looks pretty good.
Well, they also just lost Lane Johnson for maybe 4 to 6 weeks with a Liz Frank injury.
Yep. 248-539-9797. I hope there aren't regrets from Brad Holmes. I hope he didn't. I hope when they called the teams that had offensive linemen, teams that were fading that had offensive linemen, I hope he did call them and tried to get him, and I hope those teams just told him, no, you can't have Bitonio. You can't have Zeitler. We're not trading him. I mean, people say, why would they do that? Well, both teams have young quarterbacks, and they want to give those young quarterbacks chances to have success. And so they might not just simply not been available, or others. Like, it doesn't have to be those guys. It's Carson Anderson, something that has barely been touched on. We will talk about today at 12:20 because it's unanimous. It's 97.1.
Hey, when you hit the button for your garage door opener, does your garage door open really slowly, or is it making some creaking noises, or just some kind of strange noise altogether? Do the right thing and call the great folks over at Precision Garage Door Service today. They're going to send a technician out. They're going to diagnose the problem, and chances are going to fix it right there on the spot because they got all the equipment they need right there in their trucks. These guys are amazing. I know firsthand. I called them years ago. They came out to my house. They fixed the problem with my garage doors, and then they even told me, hey, look, years down the road, you're probably going to have to replace these garage doors. Give us a call when the time comes. Time came. I called them. We replaced the garage doors. It was amazing. John and Jeff, the whole crew, walked me through the entire process and walked through all the different options I had, and it was great. It's a local company proudly serving Southeast Michigan since 2011, and Precision provides expert garage door repair services and new garage doors installations, and they also offer same-day services, and emergency repairs are available as well. Give them a call today at 1-800-DOOR-REPAIR, or schedule an appointment online at a time that's going to work for you at PrecisionDoorMI.com.
Look, he's a really good coach. He's done some really good things here. And, in coaching rankings, he'd always be ranked near the top of anybody's list in the NFL. I'm a little concerned here that he might not adjust to how the game is going. And yesterday was one of those days. And he acknowledged it there, right? That what him being him hurt the team and didn't help, right? So what happens next? Does he start making adjustments?
I think it might give him pause at the very least. I don't think he's going to change his stripes altogether. I think it's going to be situational, and a lot like what last night was. Last night was situational, and he didn't, and he got bit by it.
Mm-hmm.
So will that give him pause the next time you're going against a really good defense, inclement weather, and you want to play a field position game? Or let's just say it's even inside, but it comes to your attention, maybe we should play a field position game. I think, it makes him think twice about it.
248-539-9797. Tyrone in Detroit, you're next. What's up, Tyrone?
Hey, what's up, fellas? I appreciate this platform real quick for me to just say what I want to say. Some of your callers made some great points, but my champ is that Detroit Lions defense. They really played their butts off. They really got it in, and I'm really proud of those boys. I don't have really a chump this week. Everybody's trying to blame everybody for every little thing, but I don't really have a chump. My champ is that. What I want the Lions fans to think about is this, and I'm going to leave you guys with this comment. Last year, we did excellent. We got an outstanding record, and then we lost the first game of the playoffs. I think this is a learning phase, folks. I think we're going to win out. Maybe we may lose the Rams game, but I think the rest of the games will win out. Dan Campbell and the squad will learn from this. J-Mo will learn from this, and I think we'll be all right. What say you?
I mean, I think it's possible they'll be all right. I think, your conclusions are certainly within the realm of possibility. I don't know that they'll be all right, okay? But I'm open to it because, look, they're very competent people. They're not perfect, though. And I don't expect anybody to be perfect. Even if we're doing a show in Philly, we're like, yeah, they won the game, but what about this offense? They scored 26 points in the last 2 weeks. But Tyrone, they're not morons. If you're morons, you don't get to where they were. And they're not untalented. They don't get to where they are. There's just so much on this team that last night came up short of what they're accustomed to. Now, a lot of that has to do with who they were playing. And they got a lot to prove against the better teams. They'll likely bounce back against the Giants, okay? Because the Giants aren't particularly great. They do have some challenges defensively, certainly they can present to you, but they'll likely bounce back against the Giants. And then they'll have another huge test against a good team. And
on a short rest.
And it'll be at home. Look, what did we say before the season? You know what we talked about? We talked about not only a brutal schedule, it's a brutal road schedule. They've lost at Green Bay, contender, at Kansas City, contender, at the Eagles, contender. Right? They've lost those are contenders, and they played in their stadiums. Had they played a contender at home? Well, I don't know. Can we find a first-place team on the schedule that they pounded in Detroit? The Bears, right? So now, the unfortunate part is they're probably not going to have home field in the postseason. If they do, it won't be for very long. But you never know what happens. But they got the Packers coming into Detroit, another contender, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because they got to take care of the Giants first. But it could look completely different at home.
Well, they got back-to-back-to-back home games.
Mm-hmm.
New York, Green Bay, Dallas. Hold serve at home. Do what you got to do. Get back to the winning record, and 9-4, you feel pretty good about yourself with a chance at the postseason. Whether or not they win the division, what remains to be seen. But they'll have another game against Chicago, as well as this game against the Packers, and then Christmas Day they play against Minnesota. So the division is all. They've only played half of those games. Plenty of opportunity to try to put either catching up or put some distance between you and the rest of the teams in the division. But you've got to take care of these other games too. Sunday against the Giants is is number one. And yes, I feel very good about that game.